If your cherry shrimp keep dying, even though your water tests look completely fine, you're probably not dealing with bad water. Something in your system is changing. Everything looks stable, the tank looks clean, nothing feels wrong, and then one shrimp disappears, then another, and the whole colony slowly starts fading out. And what makes this confusing is that it usually happens right after you try to fix something. A water change, cleaning, adjusting something small. Here's what most guides don't explain. Shrimp don't just live in your tank like fish do. They run on something closer to an invisible balance, almost like a hidden bank account. Every stable condition adds to it. Every sudden change drains it. And the problem is, you only notice it when it's already too late. So in this video, we're breaking down 7 hidden killers that keep draining that balance, even when everything looks perfect. Number 7. Water change shock. One of the most common patterns you'll see is shrimp dying right after a water change, and it feels completely backwards because you're trying to improve the tank, not harm it. Most people think more water changes mean healthier shrimp. That's true for fish, not for shrimp. Shrimp don't react to better water, they react to different water, and that difference doesn't have to be extreme to matter. Even a small shift in temperature, or a slight change in dissolved solids, or a difference in mineral content can be enough to trigger massive internal stress. Small tanks don't fail faster. Small mistakes just don't dilute. And the part most people don't realize is that shrimp don't adjust slowly the way fish do. They react instantly. So when you change too much water or refill too quickly, you're not refreshing the system, you're forcing a sudden shift. And that shift isn't just stress, it's a direct withdrawal from that invisible balance. When too much gets pulled at once, the system can't recover fast enough. And that shock often triggers a forced molt, one of the most dangerous states a shrimp can be in. Number 6. Failed molt. When people see a white ring forming, the instinct is to fix it immediately by adding minerals, usually calcium. The logic sounds right. If something is missing, add more. That works in simple systems. This isn't one of them. Molting is not about having more minerals. It's about having the right balance at the right time. And more importantly, having that balance stay stable. If general hardness is too low, the shell forms weak. If minerals suddenly spike, the shrimp's body expands faster than the shell can handle, and it can't separate properly from the old casing. And here's where things get tricky. A lot of failed molts don't come from bad water. They come from changing water. So what looks like a deficiency is often actually instability. And once a shrimp gets stuck mid-molt, there is no recovery window. Number 5. Parameters are fine. This is probably the biggest trap beginners fall into. You run your tests, everything comes back perfect, and logically, that should mean the tank is safe. But shrimp don't operate on the same system your test kit is showing you. Ammonia, nitrite, nitrate, those are important, but they are just the surface. You're looking at the surface, while the real system is running underneath. Shrimp are much more sensitive to general hardness, carbonate hardness, and total dissolved solids. These directly control their internal balance and their ability to survive. So you can have a tank where all the visible numbers are perfect, but internally, the shrimp are dealing with constant micro instability. At this point, if your tank looks perfect on paper, but shrimp keep dying, are you actually measuring the system or just the easiest parts to test? And the hardest part is, you don't see that until the losses start happening. Number 4. Shrimp soil trap. This one feels like you're doing everything right, which is why it's so dangerous. You buy a substrate labeled for shrimp, assuming it's the best option. It's marketed that way. It sounds correct. And that's exactly why it's dangerous. Most of these substrates are designed to actively change the water chemistry. They lower carbonate hardness, shift pH, and create softer water conditions. That works for some species, not for cherry shrimp. And when you combine that with tap water changes, you create a constant push and pull between two different environments. Each shift is another small withdrawal from that balance. And over time, that adds up faster than you expect. It doesn't crash the tank overnight, it slowly destabilizes it. This is where most people think they're doing everything right and still lose their shrimp. Number 3. Overcleaning. This is one of those mistakes that feels responsible but works against you over time. You clean the glass, vacuum the substrate, remove buildup, and everything looks fresh again. But shrimp don't depend on that clean look. They depend on what you just removed. Biofilm, microorganisms, surface growth, that's their main food source. A sterile tank isn't a clean tank, it's a starving one. I've seen tanks where everything looked spotless, but the shrimp population kept declining slowly, and the problem wasn't disease or parameters. It was lack of food at the micro level, and because it happens gradually, it's easy to miss until the colony is already weakened. Number 2. Invisible toxins. Some of the most dangerous problems don't show up in your routine testing at all. Trace copper, chemical residues, even contamination from tools can introduce stress without any obvious warning, slowly draining what's left of that system. Fish often tolerate low levels without showing immediate symptoms. Shrimp don't. They're the first thing to fail, long before the system looks broken. And the effect isn't always instant. It builds up quietly, creating a constant level of stress that reduces survival over time. Number 1. Peaceful fish trap. This is where expectations don't match reality. You add small peaceful fish, there's no aggression, no chasing, nothing that looks like a threat, so everything should be fine. But peaceful doesn't mean harmless. Peace just means no fighting. It doesn't mean no damage. Baby shrimp are extremely vulnerable, and even small fish will pick them off in ways that are almost impossible to notice. So instead of a sudden crash, you get a slow disappearance. The population never grows, breeding slows down, and eventually it feels like the shrimp just don't survive in that tank. When you step back and look at all of these together, a pattern becomes very clear. None of these are big, obvious mistakes. They're small shifts, small mismatches, small assumptions. None of them look dangerous on their own, but together, they slowly drain the system without you noticing. Shrimp don't fail because your tank is bad. They fail because your tank isn't stable enough for them. They fail quietly until there's nothing left to recover. And stability doesn't come from chasing perfect numbers. It comes from consistency, from minimizing change, and from understanding how your system behaves over time. If this kind of breakdown is how you prefer to understand your tank, that's exactly what we focus on here. Once you see it this way, you can't unsee it. Until next time, keep your tanks balanced, let your ecosystem stabilize naturally, and keep your curiosity flowing.